everyone. My name's Elizabeth, and this is my co-host Vince on the OnlyRoofers podcast. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing DreamWorks Roofing. We have Charlie, Stephen, and Moses. Say hello, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Well, all gentlemen.
Happy to be here.
I'm always the third wheel here. Kind of getting used to it, you know.
You're also on this show. So welcome, guys. How's it going? How's 2021 treating you?
Good.
So far, so good.
Good. Well, it's almost over.
Yeah, it's almost over. So how was it?
So how was
It was
it?
good.
Good year?
It was good, yeah.
2021 was a good year. Filled
Good
with
learning
a
year.
lot of lessons. A lot of lessons in 2020.
Better than you thought it was going to be expectation-wise. It was a funky year, coming a little bit out of COVID, you know.
We almost had to relearn how to speak to some people, man. It was a different type of customer that I think we experienced this year over versus other years.
More educated, more
conscious.
Yeah?
More conscious of everything. More conscious of price, of the quality of the products. So maybe education is playing a role in that, but I felt like we really had some customers that kind of held our feet to the fire this year and really kind of demanded much more from us than what we kind of experienced in previous years.
So how are you guys setting yourselves up to win for next year with these now more educated customers, more targeted clients? Have you used this time now to create a new approach, or is that what you're going to do now?
Yeah, actually our big thing for this year is going back to basics for 2022. It's really nice to be able to kind of take this time and reflect on the year and say, hey, what worked for us in previous years? How do we need to adapt? In 2022, we're really kind of just going back to our basics of what we found success in previous years.
So DreamWorks Roofing, I'll let you answer this one so you can get your time to shine. How did you guys get started?
I was born in 1983. No, I was kidding. Started roofing.
Yeah, Liz was 2000. So.
Started roofing, worked for a bunch of roofers throughout the years. Worked for some guys that didn't treat their employees very well. So I went to work
hate
for
those guys.
Yes, those guys are not. Those guys suck. So we worked for another company, and I met Charlie there. He was the general manager. I was the production manager. We decided we wanted to expand ourselves and get ourselves out of that situation. So we left. We started DreamWorks Roofing in January of 2015.
Great time to start a roofing company, by the way.
Yeah.
The dead of winter.
I know, that's what I was like, that's a great time to start.
Yeah, we were pounding shingles on. I've been roofing for 20 years. I've known Moses since the early 2000s. He's the godfather to my son. But he was working for an EMT company as a marketing director for them, and he got a hold of me. He's like, man, this is not fun for me. Do you have any openings? And I told Charlie about him. We got to get this guy in here. We came in. We were doing repairs, doing installs ourselves, and then we have to give that props to Moses because he was like, listen, man, let's take our tool belts off.
Yeah.
Enough of this, like, I got bad hips, I got bad shoulders, like, you know,
My back hated me.
I got arthritis, like, it's rough, you know. Let's take our tool belts off and let's start selling roofs. And it was definitely like hard to like take that leap.
So installer mindset, I'm a laborer, I'm here to put on a roof, to now I have a roofing company, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is like the moment that it clicked, right? That once he did say that and you guys all came together, when did it actually start to take action and become true?
So we were a little apprehensive, right? So Charlie and Steve were finally like, okay, let's give this guy a shot. First day out in the field, first two estimates sold on the spot.
Yeah.
So right then and there it was, okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
I called Charlie, but this guy's a beast. This is awesome. They were like small. The one was like a small town
they were
house,
small
but it
towns.
was like those first ones you sell.
Yeah.
What was that leap like? Because like a lot of guys are scared of that leap, right? That's the biggest concern in business is really, you see the guys who are, let's call it entrepreneurs over entrepreneurs, is that ability to get to the edge and say, I'm going to jump, and what happens, right? I'm going to
Like used to just being like working as a subcontractor, we would just get the lead, we would get the job.
Right.
Hey, you got this job for you guys tomorrow. Cool, great. That was the biggest thing was.
Yeah.
How are we gonna? You can sell jobs on your own and do it yourself.
Yeah. It was really eye-opening. I remember this day that I kind of looked and I realized that we had 3 jobs going on that day. So I said we had, like, typically when we were doing the roofs, you had one stream of income for that day. It's whatever you were touching.
Yeah.
Right. So I sat back and looked at my numbers at the end of the week, and I'm like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, I'm learning how to run a business while being in the business and taking my lumps that way, making a ton of mistakes.
scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's actually talk about that for a second, because I think there's a lot in our community of a lot of guys who have gone from installers to business owners.
Yeah.
What is the difference as someone who used to be a laborer? When you see another roof getting installed by your company, do you have more strict production procedures? What does that look like for you guys?
That's what it all comes
Or
down
quality
to.
control?
It all it's going to come down to processes then, because you physically can't be there controlling it. You can't be in two places at one time, so you're only going to fall to the level of the processes in which you put in place to control it. So that's the biggest thing that was our biggest hurdle, and still is having those repeatable processes to make sure that the guys know what to expect when they get there, the right materials are there, the right check marks are being checked to make sure they're doing things as close to the way that you would do them as humanly possible, you know?
So who handles more of what from you guys?
So before COVID, we had put all these managers in place, and it just talks about going back to the basics. But kind of like slogan or whatever inside the office for next year is back to the basics.
Nice.
And we put these managers in place, and then COVID hit, and it was like 2 years of. It's always been 2 years of COVID now.
Yeah, it has.
We recently made some changes in the office. Some of the managers are going back into sales full time.
Wow.
Moses was sales manager, and we saw the dip in sales whenever he would just step out of the sales and be sales manager. So he's going back into full-time sales, but he's going to be our sales manager still. Our production manager, Matt, who has sales experience, he's going back into sales. I'm production again.
Back to your personal basics,
Yeah,
company basics, but back to your lane, what you're great at, what you're great at.
Charlie's
yeah.
going back to administrative and marketing and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So now the question is like, what's the next hire after that? It's always the chicken or the egg thing. What's next? You know?
Could I ask a question? How'd you get out of that, right? Like, is it, you guys said you got back to basics, so you got out of the basics in the first place. Because
Yeah.
every
Oh, that's
business
a good
owner,
question.
whatever business it is, they always like, right, you're scaling, you're growing, you're building, right? And now you start to do things that aren't your wheelhouse out of necessity,
Yeah.
right? And how'd that happen? Or it was just domino effect of things?
For me personally, I was following the wrong people in the industry. People that were in a different market, different area, doing different things. You know, trying to compare ourselves to companies who get golf ball size hail 6 times a year.
I agree so much with what you're saying right now.
Trying to keep up with the Joneses, but the Joneses weren't in your neighborhood.
Right.
Man, they're like, they just started, they're doing $15 million a year, and they're worried about that top number all so much.
Yeah.
And Charlie was always the one that was like, it's the net, that's the most important thing.
Right,
So,
and that's what we're kind of doing. We're going to be doing this year is working on that foundation, because you can build as big as you want, or you can build the tallest skyscraper in the world, but if you have a terrible, crumbly foundation, it's not going. It's going to fall down.
It also, I mean, there's like something there, like a little bit about like real happiness, right? You're talking about, they're in business a year, they're doing 15 million, about the net, but also it's like, are we happy with what product we're producing? Are we happy with the company we are?
Right.
Like, I'd rather make 7 million and be happy and go to sleep at night and be an ethical human being than make 15 million and know I'm screwing a bunch of people.
The bottom line is way more important than that top line.
And we were blinded by those big top line numbers. We saw our growth, and we were like, we did
gotta make
X
sense.
million, and it was increasing every year, and we said, now we want to do 2050, but we're not. It's just not our market. Like we don't, like Steve said, we don't get golf ball size hail 6 times a year. We're lucky if a decent storm comes our way. So it was unrealistic, and getting back to these basics is so exciting for next year.
So my biggest question for you guys is going to be, right, part of setting up that foundation, right, is going to be you have to set up a foundation for what you want to build.
Correct.
Because you're not just going to set a foundation and all of a sudden decide, oh, we're going to make a $20 million company, but you really only set a foundation for $5 million, right? So now that you're coming into the new year, you're coming back to the basics. Maybe you haven't thought about this yet, or maybe you do. What is the business that you're going to build? Like, are you going to get to 20 million? Are you going to get to 30 million? What is your new goal? Is it going to be $10 million consistently every year, high profit margins, happy, healthy, money in the bank?
what I envision for the future of us is to have, branch out and scale into multiple locations, but those locations be profit driven, $5-6 million locations, whatever it may be.
Right. 15% on the bottom line is what we want to see.
Yeah.
15%. That is, it's enough to build that foundation that you can then take that foundation and build a smaller foundation at another location and at another location. But it all starts with that bottom line. Screw the top line sometimes. The top line's nice. Looks great. You can advertise it, but that bottom line is what's going to feed you for the next year.
Outside of like big energy. That's all it really is.
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Like,
okay. I wasn't sure how far we.
I mean, that's what it is, right? Let's walk around like I do 20 million. Like, great. Well, like, what do you walk away with? Oh, I'm in the losses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do, buddy?
Yeah, I like losing money.
Right. I mean, the guy that's doing 20 million but making 5% net is making the same amount of money as the guy doing.
It sounds
7
nice
million
at
making
conferences,
50%.
you know?
Yeah.
What do you do? I do 5. Oh, I do 20.
Yeah.
You know, but like, what do you walk home with?
And or you go into the operations and everyone's like on the verge of quitting. Everyone hates the owner. The owner's wife is like divorced him, took half of what he didn't have. Like
You said happiness, so it's maybe 2022 is net profit and happiness.
You see that, Liz?
Maybe those
You
are
see
our
that?
two
I bring
main
up happiness, and he gives you the credit for it.
hey, I
It's
said
like I'm a
happiness.
third wheel.
You have to be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to fail if you're miserable.
I agree. It's definitely not, in my opinion, what makes a roofing company successful is someone who's profitable. Their company model aligns with their values as a person, right? There's people, if it's important for you to be with your family, because that's not a priority for everyone, but if it's important for you to be an active husband and father, why shouldn't your company structure allow for that to happen, right? So I think what you guys should do, what your homework is, I know this is not even like what I'm supposed to do on this show, is like sit down and figure out how many $5 million locations you want to have or $6 million and create kind of a map. Sit down with a map, look at the map and say, okay, excellent.
And work it backwards.
Yeah.
And reverse engineer from there.
Correct. This is our 20-year goal. This is each of us is going to target and run. We're going to assign this under the 5 million business model. We're going to perfect it this year, and then once we perfect this $5 million business model, we're going to implement it in these cities. Because how you guys are going to stay true to yourselves and not get lost from the basics again is having the overall vision. Otherwise, it's going to happen again at a larger scale and maybe more of a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That'll be $300.
Well, I left my wallet.
Yeah. See my bank
We can end the
account.
conference now. Liz just, they were told Liz just dropped the
podcast
bomb.
live.
Yeah.
With getting back to the basics, everything like that, it sounds like you guys are really process driven and so on, and to scale into multiple locations, which is basically, cloning your core, right? Have you built out those things, or that's something you want to work on in 2020? Is like, this is our core, this is our procedures, our policies, so on and so forth, our vision, our mission, everything like that. And now, next city, here it is. Next city, here it is. You're going to run it. You're going to run it. You're going to run it.
Yeah, that's something that is a humongous emphasis.
It's the only way it
We've-
works.
We've tried it in a 50% capacity sometimes though. Like I feel like we've always said
Dipped our toe.
we need this process, we need this process, we need this process. And now we're using things such as through you guys, getting a manual in place so that when our reps come in,
Shout out to us. Thank you. That's so nice.
any question they have, they don't need to come to us because that's then eating up time. It's eating up our resources. We can be doing other things to build the business. Instead, we're teaching guys what drip edge is or where drip edge goes. No, you guys take the time, spend the money, whatever it may be, write that out, get it down on paper so your guys always have an instant resource to go to. And yeah, process is huge, man.
And this was not a lot of the things that even you guys are now, you get to leverage is, this was not even available. Like there's so industry so outdated that like now it's really up to us. We want to talk so much about improving the industry, making the industry better. It starts with each of us making that decision, and that's why we came up with this kind of name. So hopefully we get some people's attention, because that's the overall goal. Is we as individuals want to help the industry and people like you succeed, take their companies to the next level. Because imagine every contractor in your area became more educated, more profit driven, what would that do to the market? What would that do to the customer experience?
Rising tide raises all boats, right?
I love this industry, and this is like a great time to be in it. And it's like
Let's go. High five. I like that.
It's changing. It's
And with those changes, educated contractors also means educated homeowners too, right? And that's one of our biggest issues, at least in our area, being so unregulated. 90% of the estimates we go to is homeowner thinks a roof's a roof's a roof.
Right.
They don't care. As long as it doesn't leak, I don't care. They don't realize what actually goes into it. It is a trade. There is a lot of craft and art that goes into it. And Steve and I shingled for a long time, and we know it's not just a matter of finding guys who know how to hold a nail gun. There's so much more than that, and we love homeowners to be able to have that same education.
The same thing is like they don't understand the spitball effect of what rotted wood means, like, right? They don't understand what a leak in their attic is, right? What does that cause for their interior damage? Like, what can happen? What's the snowball effect that all of these things happen? So we're gonna end this podcast. If you guys want to give like one final piece of advice to anyone who's in our industry right now, how can they elevate themselves?
I'll give like a tip for sales.
Yes.
If you're not doing a digital analysis on your estimates or your repairs, you're doing it wrong. Do a digital analysis, show the problem, what's going to happen if you don't fix the problem, and how you're going to fix it. Digital analysis, we show the customer the video on your iPhone. Don't have an Android also. Have an iPhone. Have an iPhone.
No Androids.
Show them that. I can't tell you how many times.
You have an Android, you're already failing.
Yes. Yeah. If you show a customer that, they watch the video and they're like, wow. The whole time they're wow, oh my gosh. And then you text it to them. Now you're on a text relationship with them. It's a little sales tip.
Yeah, I would build on that and say video is everything.
Yeah.
Video is the new way, as far as I'm concerned, to communicate with the customers. Instead of shooting them an email saying, hey, what's up? I want to check in, see how that roof's, send them a video of yourself. Add that personal touch, because there are so many roofers, there's guys, there's big companies entering this field. Everybody knows it's a good industry to be in. There's lots of money to be made, so you've got to stand out somehow. And I would say video, video, video.
And people, the consumer is way more accepting of it now.
Yes, exactly.
Way more
And,
accepting of it.
Especially with how digital we are, people doing Zoom estimates and whatever else. Any way you can bring more of a personal touch to everything that you do, bring that personal touch, because it'll repay you 3-4-4.
Those were two big ones, so now the stage is set, my friend.
Sorry, man.
We're done now? We're done.
However, as far as contributing to that as well, whether it's sales or the industry as a whole, our big thing is roofing done right. So if you're going to be one of those contractors out there cutting corners, just get out of the industry. We don't want you here, right? We want things done right, whether it's the way you treat your homeowners or the way that you install a roof. So it doesn't matter if you started installing or you're running a business now and trying to open up other locations. Do it right and don't do it.
Let's bring integrity back to the roofing industry.
My final quote for the day is going to be, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So I think that's really, really important to always keep those standards. I love how you guys just showed what teamwork is.
Yeah, guys.
If you
Great having you
guys
guys on.
are watching this is an example of people collaborating, coming together. It doesn't matter if it's someone you've known for 5, 10, 20 years. As if at the end of the day you can't come together and create something where you can bring others to and create momentum.
And a really example of them is doing what you do best, like what you're saying. So, you're great at production, you're great at sales, you're great at numbers, making it work for best, not forcing people into a role. Putting a square peg in a round hole doesn't work. You may be great at production, but I can't sell. Why are you putting me in the road?
So thank you guys for
thanks for
watching
having on.
another episode of the OnlyRoofers podcast. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram,
Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Apple Music,
all of them,
the whole
all your
nine.
podcast platforms,
Thanks.
guys.
See y'all soon.
See ya.